Hi, it's Dwyer. I just heard about the Kenny Pickett trade to the Raiders. Let's talk about it. It's August 25th, 2025. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Folks, when Shador Sanders and Gabriel got picked up in the draft by the Cleveland Browns, who, let's be real here, are going to finish below 500. I don't care how good the defense is. Right? Let's face it, too. Naming a starting quarterback for Cleveland is only going to last for a few weeks. Right? Joe Flacco is probably going to be sitting down watching teammates in early November. You understand that. So let me just say this. Kenny Pickett can play. I understand Kenny was a gunslinger in college, didn't quite live up to expectations when he was a pro. But I want people to go back to the game last year. It was a NFC Eastern skirmish, and it was a big one, between the surprising Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. Right now, Jalen got hurt. Kenny Pickett came in. You saw a different Philadelphia team. Right? Kenny Pickett is not a running quarterback. He operates from the pocket. Let me say this diplomatically. Philly has a huge passing game potential. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, even the tight end, his name's escaping me, are great catching balls. Right? So it was a shootout. The Commanders, truth be told, weren't that good defensively last year, but they were offensively blessed. Look at the numbers, right? Jaden Daniels' first year. And Kenny Pickett was back there operating. Just the film of that game, just that film, should tell you that Kenny Pickett is functional as a backup quarterback. I think Kenny could be a starter, but the Raiders already have a guy who I place in the top third of quarterbacks in the league, Geno Smith. Right? I hope people have been tracking Geno Smith the last few years. Right? Geno is competitive with the other quarterbacks in his AFC Western division. Right? He's competitive. I'm not saying he's in the same place as Pat Mahomes, right? Pat has rings. But I would argue that he's competitive with Pat, Justin Herbert, and Bo Nix. Right? I would also question second-year quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels, who I've mentioned earlier, and Bo Nix. Because what happens is in their rookie year, they catch people by surprise, right? There have been some great second-year quarterbacks, don't get me wrong. Dan Marino, I remember when he threw for 5,000 yards, he looked unstoppable at the time. But there are a whole host of other second-year quarterbacks where defensive coordinators might have, just assumed that some rookie wasn't going to beat them. Well, 1 year in, after their rookie year, after both Daniels and Bo Nix made the playoffs, defensive coordinators are circling these guys. Right? Let me also say this diplomatically, too. Running is part of both of their games. Right? Both guys like to take off and stuff like that. That caught a lot of defenses by surprise last year. This year, defenses are going to be ready. When you know a guy runs, and when you know a guy can run in the NFL, I understand Jaden was a running quarterback in college. But when you know a guy can run in the NFL, and when you know he's an accurate passer downfield, as both of those guys are, right? They're going to be the top priority. So to me, Geno Smith in his 30s, older than you think, right, with an excellent touchdown interception ratio. To me, Geno Smith is very competitive with those other quarterbacks as a group in that division, right? Let's face it, too. Kansas City is not who you remember. When Pat Mahomes was younger, I know he's still a young guy, but when he was younger, they were an offensive juggernaut, right? Tyreek Hill was on the team. This was the team that needed to score in less than 20 seconds against the Buffalo Bills in a playoff game, and they pulled it off. Right? Pat Mahomes was a gunslinger back then. He was at Texas A&M. But let's be real here. KC's a defensive team now. Right? So I don't expect Kenny Pickett to replace Geno Smith as the starter as long as Geno is healthy. But this is a league where quarterbacks get hurt, as they know in Green Bay from last year. Right? As Jet fans know, given that when Aaron Rodgers got there his first year, I'm using the word year loosely, right? He lasted, what, less than a quarter. Right? QBs get hurt. Tom Brady got hurt. Randall Cunningham got hurt early in a season. Right? In other words, it happens to the best of them. If Geno gets hurt, Kenny Pickett, in my opinion, will be able to come in and play better than Aiden O'Connell would have. I know O'Connell showed up in shape, had lost weight, and all this other stuff. But to me, Kenny Pickett is in a spot in his career where he's being undervalued. His best is still ahead of him. This is a guy in his 20s, right? This is a guy who's been cut a few times. This is a guy who had the Commanders beaten, right, in a shootout. But Devontae Smith, all he had to do was catch the ball. That game was over. Ball hits him in the hands. Smith was thinking about his next move. He dropped the ball. That was enough for Jaden Daniels to steal that game. Right? Kenny Pickett, to me, is real. I believe that Cleveland got a stunning bargain. Excuse me, not Cleveland. The Vegas Raiders got a stunning bargain, only giving up a 5th-round pick for him. Right, folks? That's stunning, particularly if you followed Kenny Pickett when he was in college. Right? Now, I don't expect the Raiders to win the division, right? Because let's look at that AFC West. Kansas City, the 1 seed last year, right? Both the Chargers and Denver made the playoffs last year. Both the Chargers and Denver are expected to have well above average defenses this year, right? Everyone is crowing about Denver's defense, right? So the Raiders are the only team in that division that didn't make the playoffs last year. And let's face it, too, I know Pete Carroll has been to multiple Super Bowls, but Pete was out of the league for a bit. Right? Pete is back. He has to get back in the saddle. The players need to get accustomed to Geno Smith. He's new, right? Sure, he and Pete know each other, right? But the other players don't know him. So let's take a hard look here. And, of course, Devontae Adams is gone, right, from the team. So let's just say keep an eye on Kenny Pickett. If he gets a chance to play, I believe it should be obvious that he was the guy who, if everyone was healthy, and Kenny, there's an injury part, right? Kenny missed preseason because of injuries. If everyone was healthy in Cleveland, I think it's obvious that both Gabriel, who threw some picks in the preseason, and Shedeur Sanders, who has some emotional growing up to do, right, aren't quite ready right now to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And the problem with Joe Flacco, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure Flacco still has one of the strongest arms in the league. The guy had an absolute cannon. But there has to be a reason why Flacco keeps losing starting jobs. Right? Let me also say, too, if the Giants start badly, right, and people really don't expect the Giants because of their schedule. It's arguably the toughest schedule in the league. People don't expect the Giants to win more than 6 games this year. And I'm a Giants fan. Right? I do believe Russell Wilson is a future Hall of Famer. But let's face it. The Giants, if they lose a lot of the early games, are going to be thinking about the future. Because a rookie quarterback is cheaper, more salary cap friendly, the salary cap always matters, than Russell Wilson is. Right? So, if the Giants start slow, if I see, a 1-4 record, I see, 4 games under 500 is typically when teams will say, hey, that's it. Russell, we're not going to win with you this year. We're looking at the future. We're looking at Jackson Dart. Right? I'm expecting Russell Wilson, barring a miracle. Right? And I do expect the Commanders to regress to the mean. Right? But barring a miracle, I do expect Russell Wilson to be looking for a job at the end of the season. Right? If the Giants shock me and they're out the gate 3-0, 4-1, then there's a chance that Russell plays through the season. Let's remember, Russell got the Steelers into the playoffs last year. And quite frankly, that playoff game was closer than you remember. Right? He hits the tight end, the ball's on the tight end drops the ball. That killed the Steelers' last drive. Right? Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours in the comment section of this YouTube video. Keep an eye on Kenny Pickett. Right? Just like Geno Smith struggled early and then righted the ship and figured out how to play quarterback in the league. Right? Kenny Pickett, in my opinion, is on that trajectory. Right? I thought he looked great quarterbacking the Philadelphia Eagles when Jalen Hurts was out. Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours in the comment section of this YouTube video. Let me also make another point here too. Kenny Pickett was on the Steelers. And of course, Mike Tomlin, God bless him. But Tomlin's a defensive guy. He's really relying on his offensive coordinator to make things happen. Right? Kenny Pickett is now with Pete Carroll, defensive guy. Right? So don't expect that Kenny Pickett, who was throwing the ball all over the field in college, right? He's going to be a little bit more restrained. He's not throwing the ball to A.J. Brown or to Devontae Smith with Saquon Barkley in the backfield, right? But my point to you is there are less than 32 guys who can be starting quarterbacks in the NFL, right? There are 32 positions. There are always holes. You always have situations where teams are reaching for Joe Flacco, right? Keep that in mind as you're thinking about Kenny Pickett. He can play. That's my take. I look forward to yours in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.